and we are recording. So hello, and I'm here today with Graham Ward, who is actually a friend of mine who I have known for a long time. And interestingly, we hadn't seen each other for quite a long time, for a few years. I think it was Graham. I think it's probably about 10 years now, isn't it? Really,
closer to 10.
It's closer to 10. And we actually came back into contact again recently as Graham was going through a change in his life, and someone had recommended he talk to Kate Blake Coaching, which was me, which was great because we actually got to have a good old chat again. But what we wanted to talk about today is that Graham has actually recently gone through redundancy, and we wanted to talk about the changes and how that has felt and how we progress forward. So Graham, thank you very much for coming on here today.
You're very welcome.
Lovely to see you. So you've had a big change recently, but if you can tell me a bit about your past few years and your work and how this actually came about.
I'd worked at Birmingham Airport doing finance, customer service, marketing for 10 years. Started out in September 2010. So it's just coming up to the 10-year anniversary. On the 1st of April, I was furloughed. On the way back from work, I had a call from my manager telling me that I was going to be furloughed. And basically, following that call, in June, I had a call which I thought was going to tell me that furlough was over. I had a Teams meeting request. When I got online, I was told that we were all going to be made redundant. So, bit of a shock after 10 years.
Yes, and you know, you have that moment when you think, well, I'm coming back to work, I'm off furlough. So you have that anxiety in a way, because you know things have changed, we're in a different world, how's that going to look? And then to suddenly then be told that you're not actually coming back at all.
Well, I was just getting my head around the fact that, was I going to be safe going back to the airport with all the hustle and bustle with COVID-19? How was PPE all as it should be?
Yeah.
You know, were all the restrictions in place and so forth? And it turns out I didn't need to worry, because
no. And there's a lot of anxiety as well, you know, for people going back into work. You know, they're coming up, certain people have been affected differently, and you do see there's elements of people who just aren't that bothered, they just go straight back, just want to get back to some form of normality. But there are others that, you know, are, because I mean, I have asthma, so I have health issues that I worry about. I don't want to really be catching anything like that. So, you know, you do have that anxiety that is everything going to be right? So to build up to that anxiety, you then get told you're being made redundant. So it's a whole different sort of anxiety. So how
Absolutely.
did that make you feel?
Well, I had something completely different to get anxious about, didn't I?
Yeah.
I had to transfer. Just when I was getting my head around one thing, I found I'd got something else that I needed to start worrying and panicking and getting anxious about. So,
yeah.
And also, it was a funny one, because it wasn't like a normal redundancy where I was thinking, right, get in touch with one of the agencies, or get in touch with a few agencies, get my CV out there, and I can start going for interviews, because interviews weren't really happening.
Yeah.
So it was just a very strange time. I managed to secure 3 interviews. One was on Teams. One was actually at the premises, where I had to sit at the opposite end of a room, so all a bit peculiar. And the other one was a telephone interview. So I managed to secure 3 interviews, but just a very different time and way of life. I didn't think I was going to manage to get any interviews, because everything just seemed to be closing up, rather than, you know, nothing was moving.
No, it wasn't. And, you know, obviously a lot of people are facing the same situations at the moment. And, you know, the thing we talked about was structure, and getting structure within a day, you know, to be able to, and when I was speaking to you, obviously you were doing stuff in the garden, you were taking the dog for a walk, but you'd actually come to a point where you were thinking, what's next for me? Is this it? You know, what do I do next?
Well, I was living the life of a pensioner, so I was having a nice little time. But what I was doing with my day, the structure of my day, what should have normally taken me an hour, or I would have done in an evening after work, after I'd walked the dogs, I was setting out thinking, right, on Tuesday we can do that, and then I'll walk the dogs after and spend the afternoon walking the dogs. Just, there was just no urgency with any of it, and really I struggle when I haven't got enough on. I don't struggle with being too busy. I struggle with I've got a very
Yeah.
very short attention span.
So you
So
need to be filling up your day, and I think you know, it's really important, obviously, when people do go through these changes, that they do schedule a day of stuff to do, because otherwise you just sit back and, you know, sort of vegetate and think, well, what am I going to do next? So you feel like you're becoming irrelevant, you know,
absolutely,
when
and I
you're
was
not.
waiting, and my partner was working more hours than before, except in an office upstairs. So I wasn't really seeing them. So I did get to the stage where I was counting down the hours.
Where you could have some
But
company.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
It,
Apart
it
from
is
that,
it is a difficult time, and I know that we, you know, you'd been having problems with sleep and stuff like that, because that all that anxious
yeah,
anxiety was building up within you.
I'd have a
Wondering
great
what your
day.
next step is.
I'd have a good day or a great day some days where I was completely relaxed until I went to bed at night, and then all the problems in the world, not just my own, were there for me to think about,
Yeah.
and you know, so I'd have a night of tossing and turning, and then feel lousy the next day. So it was a
Bit of a cycle, isn't it? It becomes a cycle, and I
bit
think,
of
you
a
know, a lot
cycle.
of us, so many people have been put on furlough, so many people have
Mm.
been put in situations where they're unsure and unclear about how they're moving forward, and it is that sort of, you know, what's going to happen next sort of feeling. And you know, then there's the worries about people being locked down again, and you know, the potential of this surely isn't over yet completely. You know, there's
Mm.
a new whole way of living. And I know when we spoke to the session, when we spoke and had our session of coaching, and we looked at some of the situations and kind of reframed the whole sort of thing that you were going through, and all the opportunities that you had around. I know that you have been doing acting for many years, and
Yes.
and that is a part of your life you really, really love, and you really enjoy
Yeah.
doing it. And so we had a chat. Obviously all of that had stopped with the coronavirus. So
Yeah.
you know, that was something that we were looking at. You know, when that starts up, you need to have the
Mm.
time to do that. But in reflection, when we talked about the actual job that you were doing, the job that you'd loved, and we all have like a sense of grief, I think, when we lose a job. It is a sense of grief. I think there's a number of areas of grief we're going through at the moment, not only sort of losing loved ones to this horrible pandemic, but also losing the lives that we had before and the freedoms that we had before. But also when we lose our jobs, it also feels like a huge sort of loss, doesn't it? But
And
I
it's
think
the
when we,
structure of your life, isn't it? I think
yes,
even if you're not that keen on your job, or you
yeah,
don't necessarily need the money, it's still, they're the hours of your day. So everything else that you want to do is around that. So it's the structure. It's the reason for getting up in the morning and setting your alarm clock, isn't it? Which I
well,
haven't
yeah.
needed to do for months.
For a while. I don't think any
For
of us
quite
had
a
to do
while.
that. I've been forcing myself to do stuff, so I'm booking early appointments just so I get up, I think, really. But I think also on reflection, when we look at jobs that we have been made redundant to, when we were looking at sort of forced change and possible opportunities that come out of it. I think when we looked at your job, and I think this will be so something that people will resonate with, is sometimes we do a job and we just do a job, and we don't sort of look and analyze why we're doing that job, or if we like that job, or if we like the structure of that job.
Mm.
If you can just have a little talk about the things that when we talked about the job as a whole, when you were looking and reflecting on it, there were areas that you weren't particularly happy with, but you would have, you know, had it just gone on, you would have probably just sat in it for a long time.
Because of the length of time I'd been there, because
Yeah.
I'd been there for so long, which is a ridiculous scenario to be in. It made giving it all up on the spur of a moment to go for a job where you're going to start your 3 months probation, they may not take to you, you may not take to the role, made it more difficult. Where I was in a job, ironically, that I didn't enjoy any longer, but it did feel safe. It was regular. I knew that unless I was going to be made redundant, I could still carry. And that's actually, when I look back on it, would be more scary than being made redundant. The fact that I could still be doing this job in 20 years' time that I don't enjoy.
Yeah. And it's
My
just
dad
because
spent,
you know what you're doing, you know the job like the back of your hand. There's the security. You had a long commute as well, which was a nightmare, wasn't it?
dreadful. I had a 50-mile round trip per day, so it was 19 miles there and 28 back or something like that, the way
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to get in a panic on a Sunday night, get the Sunday night terrors.
Yeah.
Lay there, what if the motorway's closed tomorrow? What if it takes me till 10:30 and I get in trouble, or I get a file note? And actually, it's not, there's nothing you can do about it.
So looking forward, you've got a new job coming up.
I have, yes. Yeah.
So
I was offered a job that's literally 15-minute walk away from my house here, and it's working with people. It's dealing with it's independent living. It's independent living, so it's a whole complex that deals with people that have bought their own flats.
Yeah.
So older people. So I can't wait to get going. Actually, I think I'm going to have a good old time.
I think you're going to be well suited to that. You're going to be like the favourite employee there, most definitely.
I think so. I'm already got it in my head that I'm going to talk them into letting me take the dogs down, because it'd be nice for the nice. It'd
be lovely, wouldn't it? With the dogs, yeah. But also we did look at other possibilities for, we talked about the importance, and this I think is what the acting was doing for you. You would take a couple of days off and go and do a film shoot with celebrities and famous people, and it was giving you, even though your job was pretty mundane and pretty boring to you, it was giving you that extra thing that you could go and do. And I think this is the important thing about having almost like a side hustle.
Absolutely.
Even if your job is just sort of rolling over and you're just doing the job, if you've got something at the side that can really sort of create that passion in you, it's trying to create the two, isn't it, together?
It's having a bit of a crutch that makes your mundane week a little bit interesting. So I'm with 2 agencies, so I've done various films regularly, filming a television show, a daytime television show. So I've been everything from a down and out drug addict to to recovering and then back down again.
Well, I know, yes, I know this. Graham hasn't really in real life to be. He's a great actor. So yeah, I mean, it's what it shows also is it's getting that balance, isn't it? And really, if we could move away from that mundane life and create our passions into, something we can actually do, isn't that a great idea? Isn't that a great thing to be able to do?
Well, we'd all have more fulfilled lives, wouldn't we? The way it fell with Furlough, I was taking time off work to film when it arose, but also I was helping out at Blue Cross. So the two things that added a bit of substance to my life and broke up the working week were also all taken away at the same time. So it wasn't like I couldn't work, but I could volunteer more at Blue Cross. Because all the volunteering stopped, the agency stopped. So So
it was almost like that was taken off. But in fact, when we look at the fact that you've been moved away from the job, a forced change can actually create a positive outcome. So for all those people that are out there worrying about, and we are going to see in the news at the moment, there's going to be there's still the pandemic stuff. There's fear because we're in recession. Furlough's coming to an end. So, we're at the end of another year. This year has just flown by for people, and come January we can probably see more redundancies. It's if you turn on the news, it is fear and negativity all the time. And
I don't get any positives from watching the news. There's no positive aspects I can take from watching it. There's nothing I can do about it to make it better. So it's
nothing. And I think we had this big conversation before, and it was all about when we had our coaching session, we were talking about the fact that certain things you can't control, and therefore it's the things you can control that you need to really concentrate on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you really do. And so even if you are made redundant, and I was made redundant in the last recession actually, so I had that. I can remember sitting in the room being told I was being made redundant, and with a group of people, so it wasn't even an individual thing really. It was getting rid of a whole load of people all at once, because the company was actually folding down itself, and the shock of it, and actually what's come from that has been, looking back, it was such a positive thing to happen. And like you said, the worst fear is actually the fact that you could have been sitting there in 20 years time.
And yeah, 20 years older and
Yeah.
still doing a job that I didn't like, waiting for retirement. As you know, Kate, on a personal aspect, my dad couldn't wait to retire and ended up dying before he got there. So
exactly.
I mean, what a waste.
Exactly. I mean, we've all sort of, I've lost people this year through the coronavirus, that it went far too young. And last year, my brother, who went far too young also, and you kind of think life is just so important. And yet we spend so much of our life sitting in mundane jobs. We're not actually feeling fulfilled. We may not be feeling appreciated in them. There's a whole sort of area where we can sit in these jobs and we're thinking, why are we doing? We're just doing it for the security. We're doing it to pay our bills, which is fine. But it's sometimes having that choice taken away from you. It's an important time for you not to just jump into the same thing, isn't it? It's to think about, what am I going to do? How am I going to make that future better?
And I told you last time we spoke, the first thing I did when I knew I was going to be made redundant is look for exactly the same jobs that I was already doing. And it was only a few days after I'd gone on through different websites and uploaded my CV, and I'd applied for one job after another, countless jobs in the afternoon, that I thought, well, I've got the wrong idea here. I was doing a job that I wasn't enjoying, so why am I trying to do exactly the same job and the same role again? It's a nonsense. So I decided to have a look at what interested me, what sort of things I liked, what were the most enjoyable parts of the job that I was doing, and tailor it down that road. So, which is hopefully what I've done. I'll tell you more once I've started.
Yeah, it's be very interesting to see. If you were to give someone who's just found out they're being made redundant some advice now, what would that be?
Look for the positives. As I say, I was doing a job that I wasn't enjoying. So use it, besides the little lump of money, which, won't last forever, of course. It would be, look for the opportunities, look at yourself and find out what you enjoy doing, what you want to be doing, where you see yourself in 10 years' time. And for me as well, the commute was very, very important. I hated the daily commute, stuck on the motorway. I'm not a natural driver and didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it was arduous, but I kept going. And the longer I'd been there, the more difficult it was for somebody. So I would say, treat it like I have a brilliant opportunity that I wouldn't have done. If this awful scenario hadn't have happened, I mean, COVID-19, not me losing my job, then I'd still be going there, still be turning up, applying for jobs, and then getting into a bit of a panic if they get in touch and ask if I want to go for an interview.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, well, do I want to go for an interview? Do I want to leave the job that I'm not enjoying to try my hand at something completely different? So
just take it as an opportunity, and I think it's
see the opportunity.
Yes, I think that's the most, and people are going to feel all sorts of emotions from this, and we mentioned sort of the grief and stuff that you feel from losing these things, but it is important, and also to talk to someone. Sometimes someone outside the situation can actually go, hey, it's not that bad, you've got this going on and that going on, and sometimes that can help you reframe the situation you're in and look for a more positive way forward. So that's brilliant. Well, we wish you all the best with your new job. I really look forward to finding out how that goes. And there's obviously some other little projects that we're talking about behind the scenes that we go. We hope the acting gets back up and going again, because we hope to see you in all different sorts of states on.
That's nothing to do with the acting.
No, it's not, is it? So we look forward to seeing you on there, and no doubt now people know of Graham Ward, they'll be able to see him in various different guises on your television soon.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Keep your eyes out for me.
Yeah, you'll see. You'll see me. You'll think, oh, there he is again, doing something completely different. But thank you ever so much for taking part in this, Graham, and we wish you all the best for the future.
It's been lovely. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.